Welcome to the Grip Strip Podcast, episode 81. First time, long time edition of the Grip Strip Podcast. My name is Philip Matthew. I'm here with my co-host, Joshua Fine. What's good, brother?
Yeah, I'm doing great, Phil. It was a interesting weekend of racing, really. I mean, we had three first-time winners in NASCAR. The algorithm, which debuted last Wednesday, actually was right. We picked Tate Fogleman, or it picked Tate
Yep.
Fogleman, and that was incredible. I mean, I don't really like the way how it happened because he basically had to turn John Hunter Nemechek, but it was pretty entertaining to see it happen. I was like, holy shit, this actually happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, but we got to talk about that. I mean, we'll talk about all the F1 stuff this weekend, Turkey, preview next week. But we face each other this week in fantasy, and for the first
Yep.
time this season, I'm gonna just tell you right now, Phil, I'm gonna savage you this week. I'm gonna take each one of your pre-existing holes and fill it with my seed, and then I'm gonna invite my dog to go shit inside of you like your rest stop bathroom. that's that's borrowing from Ruxin from the league.
Yeah. Well,
I
I
had to do
mean,
it.
I like that. I like the
Yeah,
the league, and
yeah,
I mean, what the hell's his name? I'm forgetting his name. Nick Kroll. Yeah,
yeah,
Nick Kroll's. Yeah, he has weird effing face or whatever. I guess it. I don't know. I really don't know what to say to that other than we'll let the teams do the work and do the
yeah,
talking. And considering that your regular team's coach spends more time fornicating and instead of coming back with his team to go and work when they're
yeah. He
0
wants
and
to grab
4,
ass.
he wants to go and grab ass and go back to the bar to be with his grandchildren, is what he
Yeah,
said. Um, I'll just leave that there.
yeah,
My 49ers aren't doing much better than Josh's Jacksonville Jaguars. Our fantasy teams are doing pretty well. Uh, I've won the week twice, 2 weeks in a row. So for the poorest man in the league outside of Nikki, it's starting to actually look okay, but we need to keep on going. Minus Josh's impression of Michael Rappaport, basically just there. We'll let that go because Josh is the brains of the operation, of course. I'm just a talking head. Uh, how the hell do you recover from somebody saying he's gonna come in your ass and then shit in it? But anyway, for inbreds that seem to do that with their sisters, brothers, and animals, Bubba Wallace won his first career Cup Series race, and it was an epic deal. It's an amazing thing, unless you're trash. Uh, First win for him in the Cup Series, first win for 23XI. Denny Hamlin as a car owner, Booty Barker as a Cup crew chief. After all these years being involved in the Cup Series, uh, in different facets, being a crew chief, being in a car chief, he was part of the Rainbow Warriors. It goes all the way back for him. I always remember him being Scott Wimmer's crew chief back in the day at Bill Davis Racing and the Janny King Pontiac. And they should have won the championship in '02. They got screwed that year. But the fact of the matter is, Booty Barker's a cup winning crew chief. Rain shortened. They, for whatever reason, they of course started a race late because of TV, and that's their justification for starting the race late. We're going to start the race at 2 o'clock on Monday. They moved it up to 1 o'clock, which I think is like 12 in Alabama, because I think they're in the central time zone. I don't get how that whole well, whatever. I mean, it make like Texas can be in. It's a whole time. Yeah, we should just have like it's like time zones, the daylight savings time. Some of that crap has to be taken care of. But either way, the time wasn't in the favor this weekend, especially on two of the three races. But when it came down to it at the end of the race, Bubba made moves. We'll get into it. We'll talk about the playoffs and a lot of people were affected in that race, including um, the inbred's Lord and Savior, Kyle Larson, who got wrecked early in the race. And even though, I think it's more than likely he'll make it into the round eight. It's what happens when you have like 8 trillion playoff points. There is a possibility that it could go really, really bad at the ROVAL. And after having a career year, he could be looking outside, looking in. It's happened before in this playoff format for guys who've had great regular seasons. So it's something we'll talk about because the ROVAL's usually a crazy one. Brandon Brown wins his first career Xfinity race due to darkness. And as much as it was a great deal and it's a cool thing for him, his organization, his dad, him and his dad, his mom and dad, all that, and the people that work for him, uh, I think is as much overshadowed by, inbred dipshits uh, yelling in the stands, denigrating a certain person that is considered the most important person in the most powerful person in the world, in a sense, is the president of the United States. So that was not great, and it fits many stereotypes for NASCAR fans. So that in its own right is what it is. But then it's Talladega. That's basically what it is. It explains a lot. And then the Tate Fogleman Josh algorithm pick was he. I mean, the point is Josh picked him, and we lost our crap. I couldn't believe it when Josh texted me that it happened. Then I saw the video of it because I was practicing. I had my bowling practice, but I couldn't believe. I thought he was lying, but because I'm like, how the fuck did Tate? I'm like, I figure, okay, fine. Tate
I tell the
Fogleman
truth,
won.
man.
No, I know. No, I'm like, okay, Tate Fogleman won, so that means like half the field was wrecked or whatever. No, no, no. I mean, half the field was wrecked or 3/4 of the field was wrecked, but he just drove through John Hunter Nemechek like he didn't exist. He did a tone. He basically did the Brad Keselowski on Carl Edwards because John Hunter made that move and he went and offered outside and Tate Fogleman put it inside and he
Well, it's
flat
like
said,
John Hunter Nemechek's first win, or whatever it was, when he beat Cole Custer back in 2016 at CoTA, or not CoTA, but Canadian Tire Motorsports Park.
yeah.
Yeah, basically kind of like that. He just fenced him and got the win like that, and then he got tackled by Cole Custer afterwards. Well, and
Yeah,
this is very similar.
yeah, that was the best. That was the best part of that whole deal. I mean, it wasn't John Hunter's first win. It was one of his early
Oh
wins
yeah,
because it was
yeah,
still in with his dad's team.
yeah.
But he made no effort whatsoever to make that corner. He literally drove um Custard. What I forget what the hell. I had a nickname for that guy, but whatever the hell his name, Cole Custer into the grass, and they were driving through the grass. They crossed the line, not on the track, and then Cole Custer went and ran him over like it was an angry runs or something. Because John Hunter Nemechek, I think, weighs 125 pounds soaking wet. Uh, I mean, it's like when what is it? Gumby went and ran over uh, what's that guy's name? Kaz Gralla. Yeah, Kaz Gralla there. I mean, the only person who's actually made a clean pass to win there, I think, was Blaney on Herman Quiroga. But I mean, the guy who runs Talladega, or like PR guy at Talladega Super Speedway, basically celebrated the fact that Tate Fogleman demolished like the champion elect to win that race. And I'm like, well, there you go. So Saturday was proof positive. It fit the stereotypes of NASCAR fans and NASCAR in general. And then on Monday, you gave the LCD, because literally the second person that called on the post race show after Bubba was declared the winner, rain shortened winner of the Yellowwood 500, was saying, "Oh yeah, I'm in Atlanta, or I'm in a suburb of Georgia, but they could have gotten that race restarted." The guy was literally trying to argue with Brad Gilly or whatever that they could have gotten that race restarted, and it was still raining at Talladega, and it was 4 o'clock, or it was like 4:30 in the afternoon here. It's 3:30 there. It was probably going to take 2 hours for them to dry the track, and they would have had maybe an hour at best. They weren't going to finish the race. That's the whole point. It's like, it's bad enough NASCAR tried to start the race on Sunday when it was raining, pulling the same thing they did at New Hampshire this year. and then they just brought him back in, and they never started the race. That was stupid. But yeah, we've gotten into that. I think we've already started the review of everything in the open. Gotten a little off track, probably because Josh brought the heat, so I'm not used to that level of anger. So I've never heard that level of anger or it's weird. I never
Had to
knew
bring it.
you had that. I never knew you had that in you, man. It's probably changed our friendship a little bit there, even though it's fantasy football. It did, but either way, we'll also talk about MotoGP, where of course, um, Mark Marquez won at his house at CoTA. Most of the riders complained and bitched and moaned about how rough it was. So I bet you that'll be the same thing they'll say when Formula One comes here in a few weeks' time. But at least they had a U.S. Grand Prix again. Moto 2 is here with Americans Joe Roberts and Cameron Bobier. We'll get into that. Garrett Gerloff had a good run at the Algarve in Portugal, but was frustrated. It's okay, though. He's actually on his bike. He's had a rough run of things here recently. DTM, Arjun Maini actually scored some points, the Indian driver. The Indian driver who's an American citizen still doesn't have any points. Sophia Florsch and the other, I forget the other girl's name. Both of them suck. Most of the people that I would care about in DTM suck. Liam Lawson, who runs for Red Bull Ferrari, leading points. Had a good run last week. They're going to be running this week at the Norisring. At the Norisring. I can't do Milt Fitzwater. I wish I could talk like him. It would make this podcast a little bit more interesting if I could talk like Milt Fitzwater. We'll preview the Turkish Grand Prix. Lewis versus Max. The battle between McLaren and Ferrari. And then everything else. The colder conditions as they had as like last year. I think with a year's prep, maybe it'll be a better race. Hopefully there isn't as much of an issue with rain to provide better action. It's a decent track for Formula One, even though people never really went there. It seems like they're going back there now, so maybe they might come back next year, and hopefully they have a better slot. We'll talk about IMSA GT at VIR as well. I forgot about that. They'll be running this weekend. Cup and XFinity ROVAL play a Cup elimination race to the round of 8. So who's going to stay? Who's going to go? XFinity is going to be running there as well. We'll get in all that. Fan recap. Not so good for either of us in regards to what happened last week. As I mentioned, Urban Meyer's already 1 foot out the door to USC. I kind of hope that like CM Punk would just clothesline him on the sideline. That would be good. Or get Daniel Bryan. Well, now he's Bryan Danielson, his actual name. Get Bryan Danielson and CM Punk to just like do a run in and like put him through a table or something, like do a fire spot or some crap like that, and then have like John Moxley like go and hang him off one of the field goal posts. That would probably be a good way for Urban Meyer to be sent out of Jacksonville. And then exorcise that demon, and then I don't know who the hell else you have left. Fire Trent Baalke while you're at it too, and save yourself the trouble, and then just start over again. I think you'd be better off having CM Punk as your head coach and Bryan Danielson as your GM than who you have as your head coach and GM. But we'll get into all that later. The Niners probably need wrestlers as their coach and GM, and at multiple positions because they should have won that fucking football game. Fantasy football is a lot better, at least for 2 of my 3. Well, now I only have 2 teams because I got rid of the 3rd team because I got fed up. Because I hated that league. And Vic is desperate to play fantasy football because he got married, and he has no life. So he wanted to play more fantasy football. So God bless him. He wants to take over a team that's 0-4 and dead last. He can do it. And if he wins the money, good for him. Josh will do his sim segment, show close. And yeah, so Bubba Wallace wins the Yellowwood 500 at Talladega Super Speedway. His first career Cup Series victory, first win for an African American driver since Wendell Scott, 1963. It's an amazing moment for the sport in many ways. 2311 gets their first win. So there's a second team to get their first win in the sport. Of course, the colleague did at Indianapolis and the road course there with AJ when Chase Briscoe lost his mind on the last lap, which would have been his backdoor way into the playoff, went to hell. And so it's a big moment for Michael Jordan, who's not known for owning things that are successful, and Denny Hamlin, who, for all the drugs he's done and fornicating and taking fingers up his butt, together they have put together this organization, and they've given Bubba Wallace a crew chief now that actually listens to him and cares about what he wants in a race car. And Booty Barker's one of the most underrated people in the sport. I've felt that way for a long time, and I've felt he's been underemployed in a lot of ways. Now I think he's in the right spot, and I think he's with the right driver because at the end of the day, Bubba Wallace is hungry and he wants to win, and he wants to stick it to so many haters and so many people that really just hate him because he's black, and just hate him for whatever. You know, you want to compare him to other guys. Oh, you don't deserve a ride. Well, let's look at Michael Annett. The guy has only got a ride because his grandfather runs Pilot, whatever, travel centers or whatever. His dad ran TMC Transportation. They ran for all these years, and he couldn't drive a hot nail through snow, and he won one fucking Xfinity race. Now, all of a sudden, when Josh Berry jumped in his car and won once and should have won twice, and Chase Elliott got called like 2 hours before the race, jumped in his car and finished in the top five. Oh, all of a sudden, oh yeah, I need to retire. He pulled a Brian Scott, is what it is. He finally caught a clue that he was the problem. And if the thing he could do, unlike Brian Scott, is actually go and sponsor a car at Junior Motorsports, a la South Point Casinos sponsoring Daniel Hemrick a few years ago, because Uncle Brenny understands how the sport can work and how the sport can help promote people if you sponsor the right kind of people. It's the same kind of thing here. If they sponsor Josh Berry in the 8 car, they'd get a lot more ROI than they'd get with Michael Annett running 12th in an Xfinity race, 12th to 15th every single week, which is what he was doing for most of his career, or worse, because he sucked. They compare him to that, Bubba Wallace. But Bubba Wallace, when he's given a car that can run well, has run well. People don't like his attitude. The reason people don't like his attitude is because he's outspoken. Of course he's outspoken. If you went through what he went through, I'm sure you wouldn't be happy about it either. People say he's the one who got rid of the what do you call the Confederate flag. No, NASCAR wanted to get rid of the Confederate flag, and they needed a scapegoat because the people that run NASCAR are pussies. And they just used a token African American driver to go and stick it on him, so then the inbreds would get mad at him instead of them getting mad at the sport, which at the end of the day, they're mad at the sport and they're mad at him. So in the end, it doesn't really matter. For the shit he's gone through and for the amount of crap he takes, and for as much, for him, for Amanda, his fiance, for his mom, his sister, Freddie, his boy, his spotter, for Booty Barker, Hamlin, Jordan, all these people, but especially for Bubba. This is huge. This is going to transcend NASCAR racing. I'm hoping that he will be able to win at a Martinsville one day, or at a track that is not a Talladega or Daytona, which I do feel can happen. And I feel like it's more likely it'll happen now with the new car and getting Kurt Busch as a teammate, because Kurt Busch really has become this new guy, and now he wants to be this, like, he's been working with Ross Chastain this year in a way he worked with Larson. Now he's going to get to work with Bubba, and I think he feels like this is part of his legacy because he's going to TV. So he knows that next thing he's going to do is TV. But before that, he wants to be able to say, hey, I was a guy who helped nurture talent in this sport at the end of my career, while winning here and there. Like, that's literally what Kurt Busch wants to be able to do. But you could see the receiving line that Bubba Wallace had there at the end of that race. Before, I mean, dirt on the pit road, whether it was Chase Briscoe, whether it was Kurt, Blaney, there was other guys, Denny, of course. There's so many people are coming. He kept on saying, no, it ain't over, no, it ain't over. And I get it. But man, I mean, they would have called that race. I mean, I was joking I was like, if that was Clyde, they would have called that race right then and there. But because it was Bubba and they don't want the heat, they just made it go longer and longer. And they started bringing out the Titans. They weren't able to get it dried, and then it started raining again. But I've went a while, Josh. I could go for a long time because I'm a Bubba guy for a long time. I'm not so sure if you've been in it the same way with like K&N days with Bubba, if you've been a fan, not whatever. But for us, as we're both, in a way, we're minority fans in a sense. I know I definitely am. But the fact is, we're not we're definitely no majority. And the way the things are, and the way they promote the sport, and the people that seem to come to it, definitely not the majority in that, because we actually can think for ourselves and we're intelligent. So Bubba Wallace winning is a big fucking deal, no matter how it came and where it came and all the other things that went with it.
I mean, it's a big deal. I mean, talk about like the first driver since 1963 to win a cup race in NASCAR, the highest level series of stock car racing. I mean, it's even, you think about the history of the sport. Well, the so-called modern era began in 1972 when Winston Cup, RJ Reynolds started sponsoring the series, and they cut the schedule from however many races, from 40 or whatever it was, 60 to 28, and then now it's gone back up to 36. But that's been where we marked modern era of the sport, when they got rid of all the dirt tracks and all the small short tracks and made it mostly super speedways and some short tracks and all that stuff. But I mean, we've gone all that time without African American driver winning a race. So it's been a very long time. And of course now Bubba wins, and I mean, it came under the rain, which it's sometimes drivers have to win under the rain to get a win. And we've seen plenty of drivers like Dale Earnhardt, who, I mean, well, it wasn't the rain, but he won the Daytona 500 coming to the caution. I mean, granted, he had the best car that day, but still won coming to the caution, finished under the caution. Talk about Michael Waltrip won the Daytona 500 in the rain that day in 2003. I mean, even like Michael McDowell basically wrecked his way to win the Daytona 500. So drivers, whether they're good or bad, I mean, Dale Jr. won his last career race in the rain at Phoenix in 2015. So, whether you're a good driver or a bad driver, I mean, they're sometimes the wins don't come as conventional as being able to win under green or being able to be up there. But at least, for Bubba, at least he was able to race his way up there and get to the lead and then hold it the last couple of laps before they crashed. And then the rains come, because you saw he put a block on Keselowski, put a block on Logano. He had help from Kurt Busch. Of course, I mean, I'm sure the future teammate dynamic may have played a role in that, being able to draft up to the lead. But at least, he was able to race his way up there and keep the position before the caution came out, before the rain came out, and then eventually ending the race. So at least he was able to do that. And you talk about like winning somewhere else besides Daytona or Talladega. I mean, yeah, hopefully, he's able to win at other places. You can win at a short track, could win at a mile and a half or even a road course if things go right. And, just like any driver. But I think for the whole team now that they have a win, because people were Michael Jordan had that prediction that he'd win a couple of races back at the Daytona 500. It's gone all this time, and there's a little bit of or a lot of pressure because you got to win, and there's a lot of eyes on you. You're a high profile driver now because your situation, because Michael Jordan's owning your car, sponsoring your car. So a lot of those factor in, and they finally able to win. So gives the team, gives Bubba a big confidence boost. That they can go to the next track, go to the next race, and be able to have some kind of success. And of course, going into next year, they're going to have the new car, going to have Kurt Busch to lean on as a teammate and get that experience. And I think that will definitely help him get whatever Kurt can impress on him. I think I'll help him. So it's a good thing when you consider all those factors. And then you talk about the minority aspect. I personally, I don't really consider myself. I'm Filipino, I'm half Filipino, half white, but I don't know. I've always just considered myself, and I've never really thought about too much of the minority aspect. So I can't really go too much into that. But I know it's special to win like that, to have the basically in the first modern era of NASCAR racing, be able to be the first American or African American driver to do that. But so that's good. For me, it actually meant more personal for me when Kyle Larson was able to get his first couple of wins in the series, because he's Japanese American, so that was a little bit. I guess identify a little bit more with the Asian stuff, more than that. But still, I understand what it means. I was texting with one of my friends, and I don't know if he really watches NASCAR, but I told him Bubba Wallace won, and I know he was happy about it. There's another show that I listened to. This guy Eric Dunn, who's a pretty big influencer on Twitter and Instagram. He was a pretty big Vine star, but I know he was pretty happy about it. And he had a video on there, and their show had a thing where there's like, can Bubba Wallace get a top 10? And it was kind of a joke segment, but I think now he's able to win. He's pretty happy about that, and he's texting brother, and he was pretty happy about that too. So you don't have to be black, you don't have to be white to be able to, or Asian, whatever, to be able to understand the significance and the importance of it, and just be able to enjoy it. And I was pretty happy for Bubba. He's been through a lot, like you said, and even the stuff that he went through last year with the news and all that stuff, which I think NASCAR should have done a better job of thoroughly vetting that before it was released to the press and everything, because I think they kind of botched that one too, and it's not his fault, but they kind of put a, I don't know, it was kind of a PR thing that kind of ended up going against him because of the way it went down and all that stuff. But even before all of that, going back to 2019, he was talking about he was depressed, and he just went out and said it. He was depressed and everything, and saw how emotional he was when he just winning an all-star race stage, going from the all-star
advance from the open.
Yeah. And then to get into that. So, and saw how hard he was able to race there. And then now being able to win, that's a good thing for him, because it's a huge confidence boost, a huge mental boost. So a lot of stuff just for Bubba Wallace to win, and hopefully more people pay attention to the sport, I guess. They're able to sustain it and move on. I know, because it was a rain delayed race and was on Monday, it's probably not on as many eyeballs as much as it could have been if it were on the scheduled day, being on NBC and all that stuff, and versus NBCSN. And once the race is delayed, becomes a little bit of an afterthought, but still it's a pretty significant victory for him and for the sport.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable. I was lucky I was able to get home and from work and watch whatever the rest of the race, and he had made a move there late that I thought was Bubba went and effed it up the same way as he kind of messed up in the duels, gave away the duel into Bald Spot. He did it earlier in the year both in the 500 at Talladega as well. Made some moves that were not great, and it reminded me of Tony and how he'd always make fucked up moves at super speedways that would cost him positions. I'm like, okay, that's not a good thing. I think that's the one that's going to cost him. And then Kurt and other thing, whatever he had so much momentum. The tandem was working. It wasn't the tandem of old, but the tandem did work, and he used his future teammate amongst others. They had a fast race car, got himself out front when it mattered, and the likes of Brad Keselowski, who's won a Talladega bunch, Brad Keselowski, Joey Logano, Kurt Busch, and Christopher Bell. So 3 playoff drivers in the top 5. Buscher, who was Josh's algorithm pick, part 2, with this new
He had a
sponsor
stage
that
win.
had a stage win. Good day for him in general. Going to be Brad Keselowski's teammate at RFK Racing next year. Denny Hamlin started on pole, got a couple stage points. Kevin Harvick, Eric Jones in the 43 car, and Anthony Alfredo gets a top 10 finish in the 38 car. And you had the likes of Chase Briscoe, first race as a dad. Congrats to him and Marissa on Brooks, on the birth of Brooks. He had a destroyed race car, came all the way back to finish 14th behind Cole Custer. I'm trying to remember what the nickname was I had for him. Accutane. No, that was what's his name? Adam's nickname for him was Accutane Ace. Yeah. Because he had fucked up acne or some shit. I don't know. Truex, Blaney, Elliott all finished in the 12th, 15th, and 18th. Justin Haley driving the 16 car, Leaf Filter. Of course, he'll be driving full time next year in the Cup Series. For Colleague Racing from Tailback, finished 20th, former winner at Daytona, of course, in the Cup Series, and multiple winner at Talladega in the Xfinity Series. And we'll get into that in a little bit. Landon Castle making a rare appearance in the Cup Series, driving the 96, finished 24th. Kyle Busch finished 27th. William Byron 36th, got wrecked. Mentioned Larson had an accident, finished 37th, and Alex Bowman 38th amongst the playoff drivers. In regards to the points, of course, Hamlin's into the round of 8. Kyle Larson has a 22-point lead over the cutoff, and 21-point lead, or in third is Joey Logano, 4th Brad Keselowski, 5th Martin Truex, 6th Ryan Blaney, 7th Chase Elliott, 8th Kyle Busch. The J-Ski standings don't look like they're lined up, whatever. But the fact is, Elliott and Kyle are 9 points out of Kevin Harvick. And then, so basically, those 3 guys are racing for 2 spots. And then after that, everybody else, which is Christopher Bell, William Byron, Alex Bowman, need a win. So, I mean, in regards to the playoff drivers, the Penske guys gave themselves a chance. Logano was up there. Brad Ruse not making a move on Bubba late. Outside of that, Christopher Bell was up there. He was leading for a moment there, but he needed to win that. Outside of that, a lot of the playoff guys had some issues. They weren't up there. Maybe they would have been up there if it was a full race, but in the grand scheme of things, for the likes of Kevin Harvick, who's not used to getting knocked out this early, but he hasn't had the year that he usually has either. For a couple of the Hendrick guys who've been scuffling anyways and might have been out of the playoff if it weren't for stuff happening the last round, it's going to be tough, honestly, for them to go in advance, but we'll get more into that. But what are your thoughts on the playoff drivers as we move towards the Roval?
Yeah, with the playoff drivers there, I mean, first of all, Kyle Larson getting in the wall there at the beginning of the race didn't really help him, but it could come down to the Roval. What if he's in a situation like he was a few years ago, like in the first Roval race when he basically limped around with three tires and one tire basically hanging on by a thread and was able to still make it into the race barely with Jeffrey Earnhardt stopped on the track there, but could come down to a situation like that, but he may not be as fortunate. And that might mean the difference between making it in to the next round or make it in or not making it in. So he's definitely got to be on his toes. But I mean, they've had a pretty good season on the road courses so far. So as long as they stay up front and be not in trouble, they should be fine. But talk about a guy like Alex Bowman, who has been really good on restrictor plate tracks. They had the fastest car back in Daytona when they won the pole for the 500, but they got wrecked early in that race. And then again here, they get crashed while leading, really, in bad time blocked by, or not badly time blocked, but a badly timed push from Chase Elliott and Ricky Stenhouse Jr.
Stenhouse.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, your Richard guy right there just ran into the back of him and caused the big one, and then took out a couple of the playoff contenders there. William Byron got into it at the last caution, or got collected in that, and then ended up on fire. So ended up finishing in 36th place. So didn't really have the finish that he needed because I think he was on the outside looking in as well going into the Roval, and still is. And it's been a not good playoff for half of the Hendrick organization. The other half been pretty good. And then Harvick still is close to making it in, but still on the outside. Christopher Bell finished fifth, so he had a good finish. So he's able to make up some kind of ground, but still on the outside looking in. He's 30 or 28 points behind Kyle Busch, and then Kevin Harvick is 9 points behind Kyle Busch for the last spot. So a lot can happen in this Roval race, but I think because Bubba Wallace won, it basically made the playoff drivers take a draw as far as who could have won the race for a playoff driver. So now it basically everything is a standstill as far as someone who could have locked in their spot going into the round of 8. So there's still a lot on the line going here into the Roval. And then, of course, Brad Keselowski finishing second. That could be important for him going into the round of 8 because right now, as it stands, he's in 4th place. He's got 3,095 points. He's tied with Martin Truex Jr., and that could be pretty significant when we get to the round of 8 and we're in it. Because that's when it starts to get really tight. And if you can position yourself now to be higher than that or above that cut line, that'll be better, and you won't have to worry about that as much going into or while you're in the round of 8. So a lot of things that are tight right now, and drivers didn't really have the race that they wanted to because of the big one, because of the rain. And then there are drivers that got good finishes that potentially could help them for the future round.
Yeah, and with what it looks like in regards to the weather at Charlotte, it's going to be a dry race, unlike last year. We've seen what NASCAR has done in the rain this year at CoTA and other places. So for the guys that are not very good at road courses, like Brad Keselowski, a dry race is probably a better scenario, even though it might expose their lack of pace. It means you have more control of your destiny in a dry than you do in the rain. But we will see. I think Kevin Harvick has to go out there and just, even though he's only 9 points behind, the easiest way to go out and do something is win. And he has to go and probably talk to Chase Briscoe, since all year the 14 car amongst the Stewart-Haas cars has been the best on the road courses. And, he should have won Indy. I picked him on the show to win Indy, and if it weren't for him getting run off the racetrack, he would have won Indy. But I digress. I'm still bitter about that, but whatever. At least he's a dad after all they went through. So at least he has that. He may not win a cup race this year, but at least he's become a father, and he might win. He'll win a cup. He'll win plenty of cup races in due time. But let's go over to the Xfinity Series. Brandon Brown. That was a great deal there. There's some people that probably weren't so happy that um, they called it the way they did there. Sparks 300 uh, at Talladega on Saturday evening because they started so late. Um, Brandon Brown won over Bruckshot Jones, Justin Allgaier, Daniel Hemrick. Jordan Anderson got a top five for his own team. Haley Burton, Jeb Burton for the colleague team. Cindric, who advanced into the next round, so he's got a free roll going to, of course, a road course. Josh Berry, and the one car, mentioned Michael Annett. I got to get my Michael Annett rib in there earlier, who announced his retirement. Josh Berry gets another top 10 in that car. Probably if he had been able with a little bit, with the timing going a little different or things going, having the opportunity to run it out, maybe you had a better chance. Joe Graff Jr. from New Jersey finished 10th, starting dead last, which is amazing considering it's Joe Graff Jr. Blaine Perkins won a stage in the 23 Circle B diecast Chevy. So that was he's finished 13th in the race. You got other things. John Hunter finished won the first stage in the 54 car, first race in the 54 car. Maybe a sign of things to come. Considering I think they at least, I mean, they only really have one guy signed, and that's that's freaking Ty Gibbs. Other than Ty Gibbs, they don't have anything else announced in regards to Joe Gibbs Racing as on the Xfinity side. I would venture to say John Hunter Nemechek being in a Joe Gibbs Xfinity car seems likely, considering they're going to have to replace Daniel Hemrick and Harrison Burton in the team. I mean, I think they'll just keep Brandon Jones for his money for as long as him and his dad want to pay. In regards to the playoffs, top, what is it? Of the top eight, six of the top eight are playoff drivers. Jordan Anderson, of course, not a playoff. He doesn't run and he doesn't take Xfinity points. And then Brandon Brown, of course, didn't make the playoffs. Barry, not eligible. Joe Graff, not eligible. Then Jeremy Clemens finished 24th. Harrison Burton, 25th. Herbst, 27th. And Gagson, 30th. Snyder, 31st. AJ Allmendinger finished 39th after an accident with Sam Mayer. So, yeah, I'll throw to you, Josh, on this. I mean, for AJ Allmendinger, he has a pretty big gap here. They're going into a cutoff here, I think, race at the ROVAL. But, yeah, Cindric, yeah, they're going to a cutoff. It looks like Allgaier, Hemrick, Allmendinger over 30 points ahead. I mean, even Haley, Bruckshot or over 20 points. It's really a battle between Noah Gragson, Harrison Burton, Jeb Burton, really, in regards to points. The other guys would have to win to get in. But even with all of that, Brandon Brown, family run organization, getting a win here at Talladega. It's a great thing for the sport, considering they're hurting for teams and they're hurting for efforts that actually can go and make it. And it's an opportunity race. Brandon Brown went and did a great gimmick earlier this year. I think it was on Instagram or whatever, on YouTube or whatever. He basically became a used car salesman. It's like, oh, sponsor me. And it was funny. And that team from where they were when they started to where they've become now, they're relevant. They have a purpose. And now this victory, which we're going to get into not only with um, Brandon Brown, but also with the Truck Series, it could really help those organizations, take that next step forward and possibly be able to stick around and have relevance in this sport for sure.
Yeah, for sure. For Brandon Brown, I mean, it's a huge win, and talk about his ability to get sponsors with that video that he had. I mean, it's a very innovative video and shows how how much he's passionate about his team, but also his ability to get sponsorship. And I mean, he went to Coastal Carolina University and got his thing in degree in marketing, I think, or economics, something like that. So that's shows he's well studied in that area and knows how to market his race team so he can get sponsors. So maybe we'll see some dividends here pay off from that with the big win on national television and all that. And as a racer for him, I mean, he first started to come on towards the last end of last year or the middle of last year in that summer leading up to the chase when he went and had that stage gamble at Dover last August 2020 and was able to stay out on tires after one of the cautions, but he sure as hell fought through that one and made the guys that were better than him as far as better car, made them have to really race around him. And that was, when you can see a driver hold his own through that, even if he ends up losing the battle, but he's able to hold his own through that and make you have to fight for that position, especially with an underpowered car. It's a lot of respect that you got to have for a driver like that. So for Brandon Brown, I mean, he's able to finally win. And I mean, kind of like Bubba, he was able to get to the front and get the lead, and he was able to hold it up there until the caution came out, but he was up in front, and then the caution came out and they weren't able to restart due to the darkness, and he was able to get the victory there. So very, very good win for him. And then of course, talking about the time of the race, because they obviously canceled the rest of the race because of darkness. Well, it would help if they started an hour early. It would help if they moved the truck race an hour early or even 2 hours early to factor in for the cautions instead of starting at 1:30 for the trucks. Maybe start 12:30, 11:30 or something like that. Just give the fans to have racing all day, starting in the morning, leading into the late afternoon instead of waiting until it's dark for the Xfinity Series to finish. And that's not good overall for the credibility of the series. But I mean, it still resulted in a good result. So you have to, balance it out, I guess, like that for the series, for the storylines and all that stuff. But I mean, at the beginning of the race, talked about, with all AJ Allmendinger getting crashed with Sam Mayer there. I mean, that wasn't the result that he needed for his points battle. It still looks like he could have a chance to move on in the next round for the playoffs, but I mean, he could have had a chance to get a win there, especially with how Kaulig races at the super speedway tracks. They are known to team up together and go draft and block at the front, but it puts him in a position of risk, especially. I mean, it leaves in fourth for this race, and he's now 44 points behind, which could mean something later on in the round. I mean, right now he's 9 points ahead of Justin Haley, who's teammate. So that could be significant once they have to cut off the four drivers, and could put him under some pressure at Martinsville if Justin Haley ends up winning that race somehow, and he's AJ Allmendinger's on the position, could mean something later on. And then for Harrison Burton got caught up in that crash. Noah Gragson got caught up in a crash as well. Jeb Burton didn't have he was up there as well up at the front, but then got taken out towards the end in the big one. So the lost caution. So those guys, they need to be able to get into this next round of 8 for the Xfinity Series, but still a little tight there leading into the ROVAL. But that was definitely for those guys that got crashed, definitely not the result that they wanted there. So it was definitely a mixed bag for the playoff drivers overall across the 3 series. I mean, we'll get into it next with the truck stuff and all that, but just wild and wacky racing that we had throughout the Xfinity race. I mean, it wasn't even that much. It's just because it started late is where the controversy really lies, because there wasn't like a ton of cautions. We had 2 stage cautions, and then we had 3 crash cautions. And then the 15 car, I guess, stalled on track. So as far as like crashing all over and over again, like it wasn't really like too many events. I mean, of course, they just waited until the end to wreck everything. But I mean, that's how it kind of goes in Xfinity. But still, the Xfinity series still kind of has the most respectable racing, I guess you could say, across the board for the top 3 series when it comes to super speedway racing, restrictor plate racing. So at least there's that, and at least we can know that in the Xfinity, I mean, at least they still have to be able to somehow drive these cars, and still have to, uh, be able to mind their own in the car. Whereas the truck and the Cup Series seem to be laying on each other too much, and they get into a lot of wrecks, which we'll get into next with the Truck Series.
Yeah, and it's the lack of respect that exists with these drivers and with these teams and whatever. I don't know, you know, and the guy that runs one of them PR guys that goes and runs the track goes and promotes the fact that what we're about to talk about, and how great it is that guys demolish other guys to win races as though it's a demo derby. Um, I mean, people show up to Daytona and Talladega, and I think it's they want blood. I mean, honestly, I think that's what it is. I The biggest race of the year runs at Daytona, and it's the most important. And people have won the Daytona 500, and my favorite driver for many years never won the Daytona 500. Two of my guys did, but that was before my time, and I didn't get to see it live. I've had other favorite drivers get close. Um, of course, Josh mentioned Michael McDowell running over two of the Penske guys to go and win the Daytona 500, and Brad would have won that race. And this whole year might look different for Brad Keselowski, and maybe Roger Penske would have thought, "Hey, I could go and like do a side gig. He could go and make like he could have went and called Wood Brothers and be like, "Hey, let's go and do." I mean, I'm sure that the Wood Brothers are going to be like, "Oh yeah, Brad, you can go be a part of our team." Or if he wins a Daytona 500, maybe a satellite effort comes off. Maybe BKR comes back and he's able to be an owner with Penske equipment and all that stuff, the way that Kyle Busch wanted to have his Xfinity program and all that with Joe Gibbs, maybe that happens, because it's the Daytona 500. But at the end of the day, this racing they do at these races, or what they call racing at Daytona and Talladega, it takes way too long, and it ends up with the destruction of at least 50% of the cars at the racetrack, generally. Um, and it's stupid. If you want to have a demo derby, you can run a 25 lap race at Talladega. It'd be the same amount of entertainment. That's why they run sprint car races and whatever for 30, 40 lap mains. You can get the same amount of action in 30 laps as you have to have in 500 miles. And in the end, you get a better value for your money anyway. So that's what they should do at Daytona and Talladega, honestly. Take way too long to go and destroy half the field. And speaking of destroying half the field, the Truck Series, Tate Fogleman, Josh's algorithm uh, was 1 for 3, and batting 333 ain't bad. I'll take that. I would take that. That's a Hall of Fame batting average. Um, Tate Fogleman, son of Jay, driving for Young's Motorsports, meaning 2/3 of the winners at Talladega this weekend roll out of the same shop. Um, Both the Young's Motorsports team and Brandon Brown, one of his 2 shops at Brown, whatever BBR, runs out of are the same shop. So Tate Fogleman wins the Chevy Silverado 250 over Tyler Hill. So, as a Timmy Hill mark, it would have been cool to see Tyler Hill win in the Hair Club for Men Toyota. Todd Gilliland ended up leading the most laps, finished third. John Hunter Nemechek gets hooked off the bumper of Tate Fogleman, still finishes fourth. Ryan Truex, Corey Roper almost won in February at Daytona, finished sixth. Spencer Boyd, the defending race winner, finished seventh. Danny Bone in eighth. Chase Purdy, who's not going to have a job next year, finished ninth. And Keith McGee in the Dawson Cram number 41, starting from way back, finished 10th. Jordan Anderson finished 11th. So the only playoff driver was John Hunter in the top 10. Sheldon Creed, who won stage 2, finished 12th. Ben Rhodes, who won stage 1, finished 13th. Matt Crafton, 14th. Chandler Smith, 19th. Friesen, 22nd. Hocevar, 25th. That's the playoff drivers. He had a first lap accident with freaking Chris Wright, Parker Klippman, Wallace Allen, and Brian Doza. And then Jack Wood will be running next year. That's a great sponsor. He finished dead last with a blown engine. Brian Doza had his own accident because that team has accidents every time they show up. And it was that accident that Parker Klippman, Wallace Allen were involved in. It also involved Zane Smith. Yeah, Zane Smith, Austin Hill, Tanner Gray, Drew Dollar as well are involved in that. So it's a shame, but Austin Hill ended up getting stage points to bail himself out. Jennifer Ho Cobb arca braked herself into, I forget who she arca braked into, but
she shouldn't be driving.
Well, she's too busy texting and looking at her big fake tits, and her molds all over her face. But that was not a good look. But yeah, so in regards to Truck Series, the algorithm, it's not like I doubted that. I couldn't believe that when you said, I didn't believe you were lying. I didn't think you were lying. I'm like, that I just could not believe that we called a winner on this show. If anybody actually listened to this fucking show, it would be pretty epic. But you freaking pulled Tate Fogleman out of 40 trucks. You pulled Tate effing Fogleman. Yeah, I'm just gonna give you the floor on that, man. If you had pulled Tate Fogleman turns John Hunter come into the checkered flag, I don't know if we'd be able to do the GSP anymore, because then I think you're like that guy that's on True TV that does the magic tricks and crap on everybody. And I'd be like, oh, so you're a mechanic. Oh, so you do this, you do the computer stuff, and I'm a sim guy. Oh, I'm just mad chill and laid back, Josh. Oh, but I'm a real analytics guy. But on the down low, you're like freaking Superman, and you just don't want anyone to know about it.
Yeah, it might be true. I might not want anybody to know about it because that's a pretty powerful superpower to have or whatever.
So you're Josh Kent the same way as like Chris Prather is. Chris Prather, they call him whatever, Clark Kent, or because he looks like Clark Kent.
I gotta, I guess I'll bodybuild for a little bit and then maybe get a little plastic surgery or something on my face. And I'll really look like Clark Kent there, Superman. Somebody did it, but that would be a lot of work and probably not worth the effort. But no, this race, with Tate Fogleman winning, the algorithm only tells you who is going to win. It doesn't tell you how it happened or why it happened or anything like that. So that matter does not have context, but it was definitely looking good when I saw him in 6th place, and they talk about him on the TV for a minute. They highlight the drivers who are running in the top 10 and all that stuff, but he's in 6th place, and I was like, this might happen. Like, he's up there. And sure enough, like, got a good push on the last lap, and then he was able to get himself off of John Hunter Nemechek's bumper there in the tri-oval, got alongside of him, and like he kind of like went down low to almost onto the flat, onto the apron, but then he came back up onto the track, almost like he got loose actually, and then got right into the door of John Hunter and wiped him out right before the finish line, finished first, and then he also wrecked too after the finish line, and then wasn't able to celebrate, but went to the infield care center. But that was a wild sequence of events. I mean, I saw it happen. I was like, I can't believe this. It actually happened. It was like, I tell you, dude, the algorithm actually won. And Fogleman, that was a wild sequence of events there. But I mean, for John Hunter Nemechek, it's a lost opportunity to win on a super speedway, and had a chance to move on to the next round in this playoffs here for the Xfinity Series, but wasn't able to do that here with the not winning, but instead crashing out of the race. So just not the way that he needed it to be, especially with Las Vegas. He got a crash there, didn't really. I mean, he had to end up finishing in 33rd place at Las Vegas, despite winning the pole there. But at Talladega, I mean, finished 4th, which points wise is good, but there's always an opportunity to win. And if you miss out on an opportunity to win, and then next race comes around and you don't have the points that you need to make it into the next round, well, that's not good for you, especially with the Truck Series. This is the cutoff round for going from the round of 6 to the round of 8 or round of 4. So the last race and the next one is at Martinsville. So what if he gets crashed or something at Martinsville, doesn't make it into the playoffs? I mean, he's got all that playoff points, but it's still the possibility. And when you have an opportunity to win, you want to be able to take advantage of that opportunity, and still in the lead. But anything could happen at Talladega, it did happen at Talladega, but also at Martinsville. And I mean, it was just a wild sequence of events. And going back to what you said with the driver respecting each other, I mean, it seems to be very prevalent, especially with the lack of experience in the Truck Series and then in the Cup Series, because of the way that they've made the series into, and the way that they've structured it. It puts a lot of the drivers under a lot of pressure, and then they're forced to make moves because there's no more ethic there and all that stuff. And really in the Truck Series, kind of where it should start, but fortunately or unfortunately, there's just not a lot of respect there. I mean, John Hunter probably pissed there that he got crashed going for the win like that. But then again, not all that too different from how he won a few years ago in the trucks over Cole Custer at Mosport there. But sure would like for him to have that back in this race. But then Matt Crafton also could have had a chance to win there at the end. Sheldon Creed probably didn't have the race that he needed there to be able to win, finishing already finished. I'm looking at the results here, finishing 12th. So it wasn't quite up there to race for the lead at the end. But I mean, again, for people who are in the playoffs, it was a missed opportunity to go out and win a race. And I mean, John Hunter got taken away from him. But for the other guys, they just didn't have the pace to be up there. And for the most part, I mean, it was Todd Gilliland leading the race, but for the most part, just playoff drivers just didn't have the weekend that they needed to at Talladega.
Yeah, and I mean, John, what is it with Todd Gilliland? He's been close these last few weeks in regards to getting another win. He could have been in this round, and based on how he has been running, he probably belongs in this round. It's a shame for him when you consider where charters are looking in regards to the Cup Series. He might not have a job. I mean, he might actually be in Cup next year. To be fair, I think Front Row Motorsports will be in the Cup Series next year. but with one car. Um, and if that's the case, I kind of feel like because of all the connections, everything that's going on with, of course, his dad formerly driving for that team and them reducing to one car and compiling resources, I would assume connecting with a manufacturer. There's still going to be I mean, that's the thing. Depending on how things are, they might lease the other charter out. There'll still be a Ford team. Todd Gillen might be going over there because they haven't announced a driver for the 34 car as of yet. But he's run well this year, and uh, he just hasn't really had the luck to go with it. And I mean, we'll see what happens with him, with how things go. But Tate Fogleman getting that win, Tyler Hill getting second place, neither of them getting 1 second of recognition on TV is typical Fox and how they do business because they had to go to some crappy college football game. But that's how they do things. It's unfortunate. And then they have, I mean, they don't have a race again until Martinsville here in a few weeks. So they have 4 weeks till the next race. So I mean, that's just brutal. You run second, 4 weeks until the next race. So it's just a terrible way to go. They'll run on Saturday afternoon. It'll be freaking balls cold though. Um, but we'll see what happens with that in regards to the elimination and who will be there. The round of 8 right now. John Hunter Nemechek, Ben Rhodes is a point behind him. Crafton 26, Sheldon Creed 31 points back. So now the gap is 5 between Creed and Friesen. And outside of that, if any of the other guys, Chandler Smith, Carson Hocevar, Zane Smith, they'd have to win to make the Final Four. John Hunter and Ben Rhodes, I think if they just have a clean day at Martinsville, will make it through. And but it'll be between Crafton, Creed, and Friesen. Crafton's only got 10 points on Stuart Friesen, but Crafton's won there before. And that's something we'll talk about in a few weeks' time, I guess. When it comes to Martinsville, I'm trying to see. They didn't run at Martinsville earlier in the year. I thought they did. Usually they run twice there, but I guess they changed that up this year. But for Tate Fogleman, big deal as a second generation driver. His dad, former NASCAR Xfinity Series driver and great late model racer for many years. Jay Fogleman ran in the Hooters Pro Cup Series and the like. So for Tate, for Young's Motorsports, getting that victory, big deal there. Great deal to see for that organization and for him as a young driver. Let's see, let's go here. So the next thing will be the GSP Roundup here. And we have Mark Marquez winning the U.S. Grand Prix or Grand Prix of the Americas or whatever the hell they want to call it. I mean, he's won, I think, every time they've run at CoTA, so it's not like it's shocking. But in this case, considering what Honda's dealt with all year and what Mark Marquez has had to deal with his injuries and all, to come through and get this victory is a big deal for him and for Repsol Honda as well, beating the basically champion elect Fabio Quartararo, who, for all intents and purposes, is also doing miracles on that Yamaha. And Pecco Bagnaia finished third. Alex Rins, Jorge Martin, top five. Enea Bastianini, Jack Miller, Joanne Mir, and Brad Binder, Paul Espargaro, your top 10. Oliveira, a winner earlier this year. Alex Marquez, Dovizioso on the Petronas Yamaha, Luca Marini, and Valentino Rossi in his last appearance here in the U.S. as a rider gets the last point. Johan Zarco retires 5 laps into the race and puts himself, deeper in a points hole. Franco Morbidelli was the last finisher, classified finisher. Quartararo has a 52-point lead on Pecco Bagnaia with 4 rounds to go as it stands in the World Championship. Joanne Mir is 5th, 25, nearly 75 points behind. He's 74 points behind. 95, 50, yeah, so 74 points behind Quartararo. Jack Miller in 4th, Johan Zarco in 5th. Binder, Marc Marquez with the win, moves up to 7th over Alicia Espargaro. Maverick Vinales is 9th, and Miguel Oliveira in 10th. The Moto2 results at CoTA see Raul Fernandez beat Fabio Di Gianantonio, Marco Bezzecchi, Augusto Fernandez, and Cameron Beaubier, multiple Moto America Superbike champion, gets his first top 5 in the Moto2 class. He was only 5.4 seconds off of the victory there. Big deal for the American rider, great American rider, and great momentum going to Misano, Algarve, and Valencia to finish out the year. Joe Roberts didn't even get points. The guys, a lot of guys wrecked at retirements. Accidents for Remy Gardner, who's going to MotoGP. Tom Luthi, former MotoGP, former Moto2 champion. Accident for Albert Arenas. So, for a top 5 finish for Cameron Beaubier, huge deal. Remy Gardner, of course, with the wreck, now gives Raul Fernandez an opening. He's only 9 points behind him for the championship lead. Bezzecchi's in his own house in 3rd. Sam Lowe's, Augusto Fernandez, G. D'Antonio. It's 12 points. It's 16 points from Lowe's to Aaron Canet for between 4th and 7th. And then I guess you can add Iagura in that, but it's basically 27 points. Joe Roberts is 12th with 59 points, and Cameron Beaubier is 16th with 39 points right now in the World Championship. But Cameron Beaubier got his high point score for the year with his 5th place finish. Otherwise, he's had 2 other top 10s and 3 other top 10 finishes this year in Moto2. Javi Vieja is going to go to replace Leon Haslam at Honda in the World Superbikes. So there's that. You have other announcements, other things going on all across motorsports. We'll get into that. We'll probably get into that more as the year runs out. A big deal for Cameron Beaubier to get that Much needed top 5 finish this year. The World Superbikes ran at Algarve in Portugal this past weekend. Points battle is tight there. Saw Johnny Ray. What is it? In race 1 was Topak Raskatagulu over Scott Redding and Loris Baz. Michael Rubin, Rinaldi, Leon Haslam, Garrett Gerloff gets a 6th place finish. The Super Pole race. That's not what I wanted. Super Pole race. Saw Michael Vandermark win over Scott Redding, Loris Baz, Andrea Locatelli, Alvaro Bautista. Garrett Gerloff finished 8th. Raskatagulu finished 6th. And then in race 2, Johnny Ray wins over Scott Redding, Locatelli, Baz, Gerloff, top 5. Vandermark, Ruben Rinaldi, Haslam, Bassani, the top 10. And Raskatagulu has a 24-point lead over Johnny Ray. He has a 54-point lead on Scott Redding. And they're all in a different planet right now with 6 races to go. Two venues, but 6 races to go in the World Championship. Garrett Gerloff, with the night's weekend he had, gets himself within 6 points of Alex Lowe's and 18 points of Michael Vandermark in 6th. You'll need to have a huge weekend, probably win a couple of the regular races to possibly get himself in past that and get himself possibly in the top 5 to finish out this year. In the DTM, they were at Hockenheim this past weekend. They're going to be at the Norisring this coming weekend. So back-to-back weeks for the DTM series sees winners from last week there. DTM. We have the results from Hockenheim. Norisring, it looks like, is the final race of the year. So Liam Lawson's put himself in position with a 2nd place finish in race 2. We'll go to race 1. Kelvin Vanderlinde, Alex Albon, Mike Rockenfeller, Liam Lawson, Maximilian Gotz in the top 5. Esteban Muth, Daniel Juncadella, Philip Ellis, Vincent Abril, Timo Glock, the top 10. And those are the top 10 score points. And Sophia Flores was 12th. Esme Hockey, 13th. Hubert Haupt, who's been around forever, 14th. Luca De Grassi, coming from Formula E, 15th. Dev Gore, the brown guy who's an Indian, finished 16th, last classified finisher. Arjun Maini didn't even make a lap. Lucas Auer, Marco Wittmann, Sheldon van der Linde, Nico Muller had issues. In race 2, Lucas Auer beat Liam Lawson, Maximilian Gotz, Philip Ellis, Daniel Juncadella, Alex Albon, Marvin Dienst, Arjun Maini, Vincent Abril, Kelvin Vanderlinde were your top 10. They were the only ones that scored points. In regards to the standings going into the last race of the year, Liam Lawson has a 14-point lead on Kelvin Vanderlinde. Maximilian Gotz is 26 points behind Liam Lawson, and that's basically, I think, where it all ends up. One of those 3 guys is going to be the DTM champion. Liam Lawson has the early advantage in regards to that. Alex Albon, Lucas Auer, Philip Ellis from 5th to 7th, only 5 points. Juncadella, Sheldon Vanderlinde, Nico Muller only separated by 7 points from 9th to 11th. Arjun Maini, after the good weekend he had, moved himself to 14th. Sophia Flores has only got 1 point finish. She finished, and so she's in 18th. Hockey, 1 point finish, 19th. There's great drivers: Marco Bertolotti, Emma Muller, Stoltz, Clean, Deb Gore. I'm not sure if you say he's great. Hubert Haupt, Marcus Winkelhock, Luca Degrassi just made his debut in DTM, so it's kind of unfair to go and judge him on that. Went over those races. World or WRC Elfrin Evans won in a Toyota over the Hyundai's Lot Tanik and Craig Breen. Toyotas and Hyundais took up the top 5 position, including World Championship leader Sebastian Ogier in 5th, who's looking for, I don't know how many World Championships it is for him. He's just like the other Sebastian and Sebastian Loeb in regards to World Rally. IMSA will be at VIR this weekend. GT only event at VIR. There'll, and we have an right there. So we'll get into the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. And for the Michelin GT Challenge at VIR and event. Go there. Not like that. They'll be running. So GT LM and GTD will be running at Virginia International Raceway. And you have WeatherTech Championship and everything will be Thursday for Sunday. The Michelin GT channels will be on Saturday afternoon on NBC as a lead-in to probably Notre Dame football. You have, let's see right here. So in the VIR Car Cup, the entry list, so 18 cars, 3 GTLM, 3 or 15 GTD. Looking at the spotter's guide, so the 2 Corvettes and the WeatherTech Porsche, Cooper McNeil, Kevin Estra, Antonio Garcia and Jordan Taylor in the 3, Tommy Milner, Nick Tandy in the 4. In regards to the GTD, Brian Sellers, Madison Snow, and the number 1 Paul Miller car, Zachary Robichon, Lawrence Van Thor, and the FAF Motorsports Plaid Porsche number 9, Zach Veach, Frankie Montecalvo, number 12 Vassar Sullivan car, number 14 Vassar Sullivan of Jack Hawksworth, Aaron Tillitz. Then Trent Hinman, Patrick Long in the number 16, Misha Goikberg, Frank Pereira, number 19, GRT Grasser, Lambo, Ross Gunn, Roman DeAngelis, Harder Racing Aston, second Harder Racing Aston for Ian James, Alex Riberos. Then the number 32 Gilbert Korthoff Motorsport Mercedes of Guy Cosmo and Mike Skeen. Richard Highstand and Jeff Westfall in the Carbon Audi, number 39. And then John Potter, Andy Lally in the number 44 Magnus with Archangel Acura, Radiant Racing Acura of Dill Belschelheimer and Mario Farnbacher. And then Catherine Legg, Rob Foriel, Team Hardpoint Porsche, Bill Arberlin, Robbie Foley, Turner Motorsport, BMW. So that's the IMSA GT VIR. NHR will be running at the Texas Motorplex in Dallas. So we'll give you recap in regards to that next week. In terms of the points, Steve Torrance has a 36-point lead. Pretty course otherwise. Nobody's within 5 rounds. Matt Hagan leads in Funny Car with 59-point lead on Ron Cap, 72 and John Force, 99 and Cruz Pentagon. In Pro Stock, Greg Anderson, 17-point lead. Kyle Koretsky, 97. That's basically where that's at. Glenn and Aaron Stanfield are the heavies for Greg Anderson because they're KB drivers and they're young. Steve Johnson leads by 17 over Angel Sampe, 30 over Matt Smith, 39 Eddie Krawick in regards to the points going in the next round. I think it's in Thailand, or maybe that's World Superbike. I'm not sure. But yeah, those are the NHRA points. We'll get into more detail with that next week on the GSP. All right, so F1 Turkish Grand Prix, they're back after a break, after running multiple weeks in a row. Before I go and start, Josh, what do you expect from this race in whatever area you want to take it in, whether it's Lewis and Max, you want to take it Ferrari, McLaren, whatever else? You let me know what you're thinking in regards to this weekend's Turkish Grand Prix, which is a substitute from whether it's Japan or Australia for why they're there.
Yeah, for Turkish Grand Prix, I mean that the story is just going to continue to be Lewis Hamilton versus Max Verstappen as they continue to battle in the points and throughout this year, and it's all going to come down to who's got a better car in this race and who's willing to fight for it. I mean, talk about Lewis Hamilton's only 2.5 points or 2 points ahead because I was looking at the half there. The 246.5 for Lewis Hamilton, and then 244.5 for Max Verstappen. So 2 points between them. So whoever wins this race is going to have the point lead, whether it's Verstappen or Hamilton. And if Verstappen wins, obviously he's going to take the point lead, and then Hamilton wins, he'll keep the point lead. But it's going to be an interesting one, especially with Turkish Grand Prix coming up. And I mean, I'm going to pick Max Verstappen to win this race. I think he has a opportunity to win this race. I think they might have the better car this weekend than Mercedes, but it's going to be a tough race, I think. And Lewis knows he has to be able to continue winning to be able to win the championship. And right now he's on a bit of a roll, obviously getting his 100th victory and recently, and now he wants to get started on the next 100 victories. So I don't know if you get 100 victories more, but certainly at least 101 victories. And this is an opportunity for him to be able to do that. And if Lewis qualifies well, they qualify up front. I think you're going to see him be up front for most of the race. But I think the ball is in Max Verstappen's court. They have to be able to continue the battle. They can't fall behind, especially as we begin to trend towards the end of the season here in F1. We've only got about a month and a half so left of racing. And there's it's kind of a lot of time. There's not really any mistakes that can be afforded here right now. So it's going to be interesting, and definitely looking forward to that race and seeing how it plays out.
Yeah, this race, it's about Max versus Lewis. I'll go the other way. I'll take Lewis in this spot, even though he's going to his house at CoTA here in a few weeks' time. I think momentum has shifted slightly back to Mercedes, but of course Red Bull has been up there all year. They've been the best car. Driver's been the best driver. So it wouldn't be out of the realm that they go out there and get yet another victory. I'll take Lewis, but I also think that Carlos Sainz will be up there. I think Lando is going to be up there. You're going to have a Ham Lando and Science podium coming up this weekend, and we'll see how it all works out with that. There are other guys in there, like Sergio Perez, Daniel Ricciardo, who's won this. Both of them have won this year, so they could have a mix. What is now Aston Martin? What was Tracing Point? What was Jordan? Originally, the Jordan team had a great run at Turkey last year, but weather conditions may not be as cooperative in regards to having said run. But we'll all find out with you and recap it here on the GSP. NASCAR Cup and Xfinity are at the ROVAL this weekend. We'll start with the NASCAR Cup Series Bank of America ROVAL 400, who's Clyde's the favorite for sure, but I think the better question is, Josh, can bring out the algorithm now. You can go and see. You can let us know if you've done any deviation or deviated off of just a straight, pick 'em in regards to who you picked. I'll just pick Clyde to be chalk, because I figure he's the guy. But I would venture to say that Chase Briscoe is an upset pick for Sunday at the ROVAL, because it's probably the last chance he's going to have to win this year in the Cup Series.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on Chase Briscoe. Definitely a very upset pick. Had a good run at the ROVAL, at Indianapolis. He's done pretty well at Daytona's ROVAL there. So Charlotte ROVAL, definitely a dark horse pick to go with Chase Briscoe there. And of course, picking the other Chase to win, pretty solid there. Look out for both of those guys really, but also, Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson, of course, won at Sonoma and was up front at CoTA, and Daytona road course race was up there. So can't count him out, especially a little bit of under pressure now going into this last race here in round of 12. But we'll go ahead and pick the algorithm now. And I haven't deviated. I just copied, paste the straight entry list, see what happens. I think there's enough credible entries in here that it could pick a good pick, but we'll see. And now picks the 41. So Cold Custard, which I don't know. Road course racing, that's it's a full-time driver that certainly has won before, but take a lot of luck, I feel like, for a guy like him to win on the road course race. I'm personally, I will personally make my own pick here just to say my own pick. We'll have the algorithm, but my own pick, I think I will pick Kyle Larson to win this race. I think they have a lot of opportunity here, and they have shown a lot of speed on road courses, and definitely think he'll be up there at the end to try and win this race.
Yeah, and Accutane Ace going out there and winning. He hasn't won this year. He's only won the one race. It was on a late race restart that he was able to get a run at Kentucky and get his one Cup win. As I mentioned with Harvick, who needs to run really well. Stewart-Haas cars have been good on road courses, relatively speaking, all year. So we'll see what they're able to do, but it basically is a Hendrick Gibbs benefit. On the Xfinity side, we'll do the same thing. When it comes to the lineup there for the Drive for the Cure 250, the starting lineup sees Cindric and Allgaier on the front row, Emmerich Berry row 2, Haley and Buckshot Jones row 3, Harrison, or is it Jeb Burton, Harrison Burton row 4, Riley Herbst, Gregson row 5, Jeremy Clemens, Ty Gibbs row 6, Myatt Steiner, AJ Allmendinger row 7. And 40 car field in this field, so full house. Uh, Josh, I'll send to you in regards to who you think is the or who you think is a favorite, and then you can also let us know what your algorithm has. I need to find a sound drop for that.
Yeah, definitely have to do something like that for uh sound effects on me. But for this race, I mean, Justin Allgaier, Austin Cindric, they're starting up front. I mean, Austin Cindric's been really good on road courses, obviously, and then his rival, the main rival this year in AJ Allmendinger, is starting a little bit farther back in 14th place, so not quite the best position. Then, of course, you got Ty Gibbs, who was pretty good at the first road course race this year back at Daytona. It is a little bit more technical road course race, and of course, he also won at Watkins Glen as well. So he's definitely an outsider threat. That's not a playoff driver. That I think is definitely credible to pick, but I think yeah for this race, I'm going to go with Allmendinger. I feel like he understands this track really well. Definitely won here last year, of course, and I think he's got a lot on the line here. Cindric could be up there, but I think in the end, I think Allmendinger wants this race probably a little bit more than Austin Cindric. So it'll be interesting to see. Justin Allgaier, of course, underrated as a road course racer. I already talked about Ty Gibbs. Josh Berry starting up front, but hasn't really proven himself yet on the road courses. Being more of a short track speedway guy is going to be definitely a challenge, especially keep his position up front, but certainly going to have a lot of help from his teammates and a lot of preparation going into this race. You know, some of the underdogs that could potentially be up there and have a good race. You talk about Jeremy Clements, Brandon Brown, of course, winning this last race. Alex Labay, who's always kind of been an underrated driver when it comes to the road course races. Um, I think maybe uh, what Landon Castle could be up there, or well, not up there, but certainly a top 20 runs not out of the question for him. So a lot of volatility that could happen in the Xfinity Series, maybe comparatively speaking to the Cup Series. But we'll go ahead and give the algorithm result here and see what happens. And it gives uh, 15. So Chris Wright. So this one's really out there. Um, yeah, this it picks Chris Wright. So we'll go ahead and go with that, I guess, and let him
Oh,
figure out who wins. But that's interesting.
well, the algorithm is 2 for 2 in picking guys that are way in tailback town, as Rusty would say. For Caesar Backrell, now Chris Wright, who's I think driving for Sam Hunt Racing in that 15 car, but not sure. I think they announced something on the, we're going over here. Chris Wright for JD Motorsport. Oh, so JD Motorsports, sorry. So Chris Wright's driving the 15 for JD Motorsports. So that would be a huge deal if that somehow or another came off. For me, I think going chalk is safer in regards to the Xfinity Series and what to expect for this weekend's Drive for the Cure 250 presented by Blue Cross Blue Shield. You have 40 card, 41. So somebody has to go home. It's um, what are the guys? Yeah, so I'm trying to. I think they say Timmy Hill's the one that goes home in the 13, but we'll see about that. Um, we'll get into NFL Week 4, and Josh, I'll just allow you to go and rant before I rant about my 49ers. Because it's a good thing we have fantasy football because our teams ain't going too good.
Yeah, I mean, for you at least, you got 2 wins on the season, and I know the 49ers expect to be fairly competitive. So it's a little bit, I mean, I guess I understand the disappointment, but Jacksonville 0-4, 19 in a row losses, could be 20 on Sunday if they lose to Tennessee. But I mean, it's almost been a week now since they lost to Cincinnati Bengals on Sunday or Thursday night, and they got out to a 14-0 lead in the first half, and then eventually they got to the end of the second quarter there, and Urban Meyer calls a quarterback run option play on 4th and goal. They don't get it, and Trevor Lawrence tries to get into the goal line, but gets stood up there, which question that one because it's close to the goal line and not really close to the goal line, but physical play, running play, and he's running between the tackles and could get injured there. So that's a risky play for the quarterback, and had the option to toss it to James Robinson there. And turns out that missing that play, not converting, getting the touchdown was basically what the difference in the game was, because you had uh, the field goal at the end for the Bengals, and first lead of the day did not come until 3 seconds left in the fourth quarter when they converted the field goal and win the game. So it's disappointing victory, but Jaguars, at least on offense, starting to get a little bit better. Defensively, they were better in the first half, but then I think the NFL, it looks like in the first half the playbook wins the matchup, and then second half is when the players start to come out and execute. And I think for the Jags, they just weren't able to execute the same way that they did in the first half. They didn't adjust quite as well to what Bengals were doing in the second half. They couldn't respond as well. They had opportunity to stop at the end of the fourth quarter when the Bengals were making their what ended up being their game-winning drive. That got a penalty on third and 5, I think, inside or on the Bengals 20-yard line, but then got a penalty for defensive holding, and that killed that defensive drive or opportunity. And then later on, called a zero blitz against Joe Burrow, was able to get out to the tight end screen and be able to convert the first down. So that wasn't what the Jaguars needed to win the game. So they still need to figure out a way to get defensive stops at the end, because ultimately, I mean, defenses, it's going to be a back and forth game. It's the way the NFL is, but you have to be able to stop the other opposing offense in critical situations when it matters. And that's kind of the name of the game. NFL defenses just have to be able to dictate to the other team how you want them to play, and then when it comes to critical situations, you have to be able to stop them when it matters, and being able to get the ball back. So ultimately, Jags 0-4 now, but wasn't as disappointing as what I felt like, is because they're a little bit more competitive now. But then, of course, Saturday his Urbans in Columbus, Ohio, near Ohio State, and turns out he's getting a lap dance, some nice looking co-ed girl, college girl, whatever, and he's got people are trying to figure out where's his hand, because hand is kind of right there in between his crotch, and she's kind of dancing on his lap, hand, whatever. And then, becomes a distraction. People are talking about Urban Meyer. I mean, it's not his wife. His wife's at home with the grandkids, tweeting about corn and how Ohio corn tastes very sweet and all that. And meanwhile, Urban's at the bar getting shit-faced, drinking dark liquor, then dresses on Monday and tries to kind of play it off as like, oh, I didn't know that woman, whatever. And then tries to apologize to the team. Doesn't really go over though well. They laugh at his face because like, we know what you're doing there. Then another video comes out before that, and like he's fondling
So, um, yeah, I mean, I think I'm gonna have to edit this right now because I think my crap crashed while it froze, and then it crashed on me on my end, and then I was able to get back the recording, and I'm just gonna have to splice them and cut all of this crap out because it has whatever we were doing up to maybe about a couple minutes ago, and yeah. So I'll
yeah.
just leave it. Yeah. So it has what we had going while you're talking about your team, and then it decided to crash right when I came back. I've never had that, so there's a first for everything. But we'll see, and I'll splice them and edit them, connect them anyway. So you're good on your end, though?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll just chop whatever the hell this couple of minutes out, and then we'll keep going. So yeah, the 49ers ended up losing to Seattle. They're going to need them against the Arizona Cardinals for ball control, time, and possession, because it seems like every time Arizona gets the ball, they score, with Kyler Murray, who's, I would assume, is the early front runner for the MVP of the league. But it would be something for the Niners if they could come through here, get this win going into their bye, and prepare Trey Lance to take over and run the ship for the rest of the year. And we could dismiss Jimmy Garoppolo finally. It won't fix the fact the defense sucks, especially the secondary. They can't cover anybody. And then you have the defensive line hasn't been able to finish all these big picks, haven't been able to finish, haven't been able to get to the quarterback, which is unfortunate. But, at some point it has to turn around. I know that D'Amico Ryans is a really smart player. And he's been a leader for the linebackers. So now having to call the whole defense after Bob Saleh went and had a great day, winning his first game as a head coach with the Jets. I think, D'Amico Ryan's feeling the pressure. But I think a lot of this goes down to Shanny and Lynch and their evaluation of talent and what they're doing to put the best players out there. They're really not, and they're not game planning the best they can either, especially Shanny, of course, in that sense. So we will see. Stephon Gilmore was available for a moment. New England got rid of him, but he's a Carolina Panther now, former South Carolina player, of course, so not too far away. And then Jalen Smith has been cut because Dallas didn't want to pay him injury bonuses. So who knew that Jerry Jones could be frugal? They said it was a performance thing, but I think when you owe a player $16 million due to injury, if he got injured, that's a way to go and hedge against that. So the Niners need to start putting that into a lot of their contracts, so then they could cut these people and actually get guys that can actually stay on the field. But Arizona is going to be a tough out this week. The only undefeated team left in the league, Kyler Murray and company there. In regards to the Fall Brawl League, it's been recent weeks have been good for me. I've won 2 consecutive high point weeks. Vic was the lucky loser last week, losing to me. He would have beat every other team in the league, so that's pretty brutal. Same way as Joe, week 1, outside of losing to Vic, he'd have beaten every team outside of Wilson. Josh won week 2 overall. Right now, in regards to the fantasy records, I just have to go and switch over. Taking for that right there. Yeah, I'm taking for that, but in regards to the Fall Brawl, losing games is the least of Urban Meyer's problems. Wow, really? Alex Rodriguez after Matt. Are you serious? Matt Fascursion is leaving from other roles. Took Serves the Angels play-by-play man. He's a studio. Alex Rodriguez is country, but to continue, could consider to. They're gonna call Michael K. Really? Wow. Matt Vasgersian's leaving ESPN Sunday Night Baseball. That is something.
Interesting.
That is something. I like Matt Vasgersian. He gets Howard Stern references into baseball games, and he uses a soundboard like Fred. So in the um, uh, fantasy football fall brawl league right now, I have to bring it up. Yes, we're doing 0-1 IR spots. I can't use him there because it says he's questionable. Josh, actually used some of your waiver budget.
Yep. I had to get
to go and
Damian
get
Williams, playoff
Damian Williams. Great move there. I tried to get him. Didn't have enough. I didn't have enough budget, or I didn't put in enough budget on that. Trey Lance was picked up by Wilson for Teddy Bridgewater. I don't even remember if I put in for any of these guys. FAB offers, yeah. So I didn't put in on Damian Williams in this league. I did in other leagues. It was you actually put money in, so you beat Vic on that one, and then Trey Lance was bought by $7 over. Wilson got him over Luke, so that was that. So I didn't even make moves in my league because I didn't know what to do. So that's probably not a great thing. Right now, the overall says the matchup with projections says that you have a 5-point or 4.5-point edge in this week. We're second and third in the league right now. The first place team is Wilson with he has 836 points. Right now I have more points than him, so I would win the high points. But we will see how that goes. Josh, you only took your first loss of the year this past week, but you're third. Vic is fourth. Joe, the defending champion's fifth, and Manny is sixth. Nikki is seventh. 6 teams make the playoffs. Right now, Professor J is tailback, but he's still in this. He's still trying to make moves, make things happen. It's a weird league for me because considering Vic's already made 33 moves, Wilson's made 15, Manny's made 13. There's other guys that made a lot of moves. I've only got 9. It's kind of weird. I think I've made my moves count. I think that's really what it is. Let us know, Josh, on your end, before I go into mine, how fantasy is looking for you. You've already kind of let us know what you think about the matchup that we're going to have this week, but we'll get more into that next week.
No, yeah, I mean the matchup it's going to be pretty tight. I think with this one. I mean, I'm projected to win by a couple points over E, but how projections go, they say you're going to do good, but then Sunday comes around and it doesn't turn out that way sometimes. So it's going to be interesting. You got Lamar Jackson, Devontae Adams, Mike Williams. Well, this is week 4 now. Lamar Jackson starting Devontae Adams as always. Should be a good matchup against Cincinnati. Cincinnati's pretty competitive. Devontae or Deebo Samuel, I've had him on the bench on 2 weeks that he scored really good. So I've missed opportunities to have high output games. And that was the difference between losing and winning the game that I had with Wilson there. Because if I had started him instead of instead of Mike Williams would have won that matchup and been 4-0 in this and been on top of everybody. So I'm kind of mad at myself for that. That's why I trash talk. I gotta get that anger out, from this loss and everything. But it's just how it is sometimes. Because like I tried, my strategy is like go based on best projection according to matchup, and I thought that Mike Williams would have a better matchup against the Raiders than he did, and Deebo Samuel did against the Seahawks, but didn't turn out the way. Justin Herbert kept throwing it to Keenan Allen all night and threw in the tight ends and running backs, and they only had one pass or two passes. One of them was caught by Mike Williams. The other one was incomplete. So we'll see how that goes. And starting Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, have him in lineup right now. Might make a change. He's questionable. Mike Evans, starting him again. Kirk Cousins. Then on defense, Derwin James, Daniel Hunter, and then Isaiah Simmons. So should be an interesting matchup. Might have to make a change with the safety there, defensive back, go with somebody else that's more prone to making interceptions, but we'll see how it goes. So looking forward to the matchup. Hopefully I win, but all respect to you. You know what you're doing as well. So we'll see how it happens.
Yeah, it's going to be tight. I mean, the fact that you've came into this league like a juggernaut. I mean, I wouldn't expect any different. You know your shit. You're sharp, so it doesn't really matter. You could do this shit in your sleep. This is probably easy for you to do fantasy because this is like you're taking advantage of the average minded because you're thinking like 3 to 10 steps ahead of everybody else, which you've got the patience of Mr. Miyagi when it comes to your team. You don't make the moves, you don't use your budget. You go and kind of wait and then you go and pounce. So it's the wax on, wax off method, which got you to the runner up spot last year in your debut season. So the reality is right now this league is tough. I love it for all the years that I've had this league. The belt is on the line now. The ring's on the line. I can actually send it to you because you don't have kids or you don't have animals that would destroy it if you won. So that is out there along with the cash, which you don't need. I do. But maybe we could do a deal with that where I'll take the cash and you get the belt, at least for the year. But we'll talk about that. We'll see what goes with that. But this matchup, I think, will be the first of a couple matchups we're gonna have this year. We're two of the best teams, and we're gonna be able to talk about this. Whether our actual teams are competitive, I think these fantasy teams are going to be competitive the whole way. And, with the way my team's looking, I've got a loaded roster. I was trying to make moves to try to make my team better. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to make the moves that I wanted to as of yet. Having Aaron as my QB1 with Jalen Hurts as my QB2 is a good thing. Bye weeks help me in that sense to only have to carry two quarterbacks, barring injuries, of course, knock on wood. Justin Jefferson and Keenan Allen are going to have a bye here in a couple of weeks. So I'm probably taking an L that week. I don't know who I'm playing in week 7. Week 6, week 7, I'm playing Joe. So yeah, I would be taking an L if I have 3 of my key players on bye. So that wouldn't work out so well. Have that, and then I'm putting that right there. And then I do that, and I do this. And then what does that come out? Oh, okay. It says that it said I was going to project to be a loss, but as of now, I mean, of course, Joe isn't adjusting for that. So I think I can make it through week 7. All right. So, excuse me. I just went and did a Howard Stern on that. We have a pretty good team here, considering where I started or with the draft in August, mid August, and where I am now. Pretty happy with that. I'm liking my position and I'm hoping for better. And yeah, I mean, Josh, tough opponent, was a tough opponent last year. One of my good buddies, he's my co host. Um, he's got algorithms, he's got other things. He's probably got a secret machine, Makine, where he can go and put things together, come up with like things where he can pick up players. But the old brawn of loving football and watching and having a feeling will has worked for many years for me, and it's what gets us over the hump, and it's gotten us a bunch of wins. It's got me that trophy over there. If we had the video feed, we don't have that. Unlike the Grid Talk podcast, they have the video on YouTube. Go and listen to them. They're gonna have shows about the Turkish Grand Prix this weekend too. Might be on those. Josh is always invited on that. If you had time, I think they're always looking for people, so we'll talk about that offline. But yeah, we're gonna have a competitive run. I'm doing all right in my other league for the fantasy. I had a brutal week last week, but it's a part of what happens. Dropped myself down to 7th, but to be fair, it's very close. I'm pretty good in points wise. I've made a lot of moves. Basically, I have the most moves or second most moves in that league. A risky, brisky 514. So, giving a reference to my boy Chase Briscoe. And yeah, so we have hope. It's looking kind of brutal against a regular team that's been there, but I think it's early days, only 4 weeks in this season, 17-week season, but really it's 16 weeks. Only quarter way through. We have we're in position. We have something to work with. It's better to be in that spot than to not have anything at all. And looking forward to circumstance, situation, and everything going on to go and come through and make things happen here as the season goes on. We'll go to Josh's sim segment. Let us know, buddy. What's going on with you on iRacing and elsewhere in the sim world as we move towards the end of the year? I'm sure it's very busy in regards to big races.
Yeah, of course, with sim racing stuff this week, the Legends or the 87 car in NASCAR was racing or their scheduled race at Daytona. I did a race on my own on Monday, tried to get in that one, which I did, qualified in the back, so next to last, and was able to get in the race there. I had a chance to win, but I needed better tires because the leaders took tires with about 20 to go, and then I stayed out and didn't have enough grip to sustain the speed and started to get really tight in the corners, and then it's a point where I kind of got a little too tight and then kind of lost it in the corner, but was able to keep it straight and everything, but lost track of leaders and ended up finishing in 5th place there. But had a chance at the end though, because had good run on the outside line, but I just didn't have enough help. I didn't have any help really. I mean, even with the 87 series, you can still kind of hold the outside line in the corners as long as you can side draft the other guys, but just didn't have enough tire there at the end. But it was a good learning experience, and definitely was able to avoid all the wrecks at Daytona, and especially with The 87 car is pretty hard to handle, and off of turn 2 and off of turn 4, there's always the trouble spots at Daytona, and in the game, especially off of turn 4, is where you start to lose the car and push, hit the outside wall, or get loose there. So try to probably record it on Twitch sometime later this week, probably tomorrow night or maybe Friday or something like that. I've got time. Might have plans this weekend, so might not be able to have a chance to get behind the wheel until Sunday night. Maybe we'll see what happens, but probably have to change the Twitch password there because Twitch got hacked today. So of course, the other hacks that have happened this week with social media. But yeah, might have to do some adjustments to the account and everything. Get the security part of it squared away there. But I also did some Talladega racing with Xfinity on Saturday night, I think Friday, which was pretty good as well. Had a chance there at the end too to win or at least finish in second, and was basically pushing the guy in front of me to the lead, and we were able to have good pace in the middle lane. So we were on the outside, but we were in the middle lane at Talladega, and turned out that lane's pretty good. So I think the Xfinity Series at least try to get into that lane later on, or if they go back to Talladega and try to do that, because it seems like bottom lane people get stacked up, top lane people get stacked, or not stacked up, but not enough momentum to get up to there. But if you stay middle lane on the outside of the inside line, you're pretty good. You're able to keep the speed up there, and you might get past in turn 3, but you're able to get it back by the time you get to the start finish line. So it seemed to be really good, especially if you got good pusher, good drafting there. Turns out to work really well. And we had a chance there coming off turn 4, but the guy that I was pushing started to move to the left. I don't know if it was because of me, but started to steer to the left, and then made contact, and then with the guys on the inside, and then he kind of came back up towards the wall, and I tried to go around him on the outside, because as soon as he started making move to the inside, I was like, okay, well, he might wreck. I'm going to try to go around it. And then he ended up coming back, and then we hit the wall, and then we crashed and everything. So came down to the turn 4 crashing there, but still, had fun, had entertainment, and was able to work with other people online there. So always good to have good teamwork and stuff with other people that you don't know racing at Talladega. So we'll see what happens. Daytona might do some iRacing, might do some ROVAL as well, the Xfinity car, maybe even the Cup car there. We'll see what happens, but definitely always exciting. Yeah, and we'll have it on the Twitch stuff, and let you know when we try to stream, which go ahead and say it, and that it's at twitch.tv/useller2. Go see it there. And you can see the Xfinity stream there that I had on Saturday night, and you can watch that and see I was able to work together with the other guy and get up there to the lead and stay there up until the end of the race. So definitely entertaining.
Yeah, definitely, man. We got to go and follow at uSailor2. It kind of leads into where you can follow us and see where we're at. Josh's Twitch stream. He talks good commentary when he does go and give us that, but even then, very solid, smooth, quiet. The sneaks up there, lurks and does the job at the end. David Pearson type racer. Versus, the people that want to make the flash and pizzazz and use everything up and then probably destroy a lot of equipment like, Ty Gibbs and whatever the hell the other guy is in the K&N ARCA, whatever series. Corey Heim, who runs over people. Josh is the opposite of that. Keeps his equipment intact and waits for when it counts. Things happen, but the reality is it isn't because of Josh. So, Josh will.
Sometimes you got to go for it, though.
Sometimes you got to go for it. You are a Junebug fan, so the Earnhardt thing, you got to use the bumper once in a while. Florida guy, so that's probably part of what you have to do to drive too. You have to use the bumper once in a while. It's kind of allowed. Based on what my cousin said, because my cousins both lived in Florida while they went to school there for their masters. So They learn some extreme driving techniques. So it makes me proud as somebody who's an aggressive driver. Um, it also fits my checkered driving history too. But I'm just taking apexes. I'm going with the speed. I'm letting the car flow into the corner. Um, Idiot cops here in Edison don't, and in New Jersey, state cops don't seem to understand that. Probably because they fuck their vacuum cleaners and their sisters or brothers. So that's probably part of it too. We'll transition into that. That's a way to transition. We've had some crazy segues, but go from inbreeding to Josh letting us know where we can follow you on socials. You know, you Sailor2 on Twitch for all the iRacing um, exploits. But where else can we follow you? Facebook, Twitter. I mean, Facebook's back alive. It's a good thing it wasn't around on Monday, because could you imagine what would have happened uh, with Bubba and his win? But let us know where you can follow you.
I mean, as always, the Twitter is available at JP Huffine. Go in there. We'll talk about all the racing stuff, talk about football, talk about other stuff, and I mean, I just talked about the Panthers signing Stephon Gilmore or trading for him, and they showed the clip from when he blocked the Blake Bortles pass at Edie Westbrook in the AFC Championship game, and was saying like football for me hadn't been the same since then for the most part, and maybe could be better pastures here in the future. But I mean, that was as close as we got into tasting the Super Bowl, and maybe in the near future that'll happen. Whether or not that's with Urban Meyer, that we will find out. But I mean, definitely will be with Trevor Lawrence if it does happen. So as long as they keep him healthy and take care of him right and all that stuff, and give him or make him happy and all that. So that should be interesting. But we'll be on there talking about all the racing stuff, talking about whatever on that Twitter. So go in there, follow, and tag me, whatever, if you want to discuss, or we'll just go back and forth with each other and talk about whatever we're talking about.
And you can follow me at Philip G. Matthew on Twitter. You can follow the Grip Strip podcast at Grip Strip Pod on Twitter. Our show is on Podbean. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music. Um, bringing this up, I'm forgetting. Wow, send us trending. That's something. I have to go and bring that up. Senna Silverstone. Yeah, so you can follow the Grifter podcast on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, Podbean, Pandora, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, TuneIn. There's other places. I haven't posted those up yet. But the fact of the matter is, we're all basically, if you want to find a podcast, you can find the Grifter podcast. It's anywhere. We distribution is there. We're trying to figure out, extending and expanding, figuring out other things to make the show better going into 2022. Still got a month or so. I mean, a couple months really with Formula One. Month with NASCAR, a couple months with Formula One. Football's going on till mid-February, so we'll be around. Thank you for listening to us. Thank you for supporting us. Take care of one another. Be safe. Use common sense. It's not that hard. If you care about your fellow person, fellow citizen, just be smart and do your thing. Um, the world, the way things are right now, is pretty bad. It doesn't have to be, but we'll get there with COVID and all these other things. Hopefully, we'll be able to get back to a semblance of normalcy here sooner rather than later. But I'll take all our efforts. So thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting us here on the Gripster Podcast. We will see you next week with the recap of the ROVAL, Turkish Grand Prix recap, motorcycle racing, World Superbike recap, and IMSA, and whatever else is going on, football. And we'll see you next week.